And so it's one of those things where we wanted to share best practices and key learnings with the community. So here we are today to talk about partnerships. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and then we'll go ahead and kickstart. Now we want to do things a little bit different. So no one wants to hear me talk for 40 minutes because that would be very fun, but we want to get you guys involved as well. So if you have any questions, comments, if you want to chime in, if you have any key insights that you want to share as well, please let me know, and then we'll just kind of share with the rest of the team. So real quick, let's see if I can get the screen working. Besides my big ugly face. All right, there we go. So real quick, so for today's session, we talked about, partnerships and a little bit about myself. I work with a lot of, multinationals and medium-sized enterprises in terms of how can they build partnerships to generate opportunities and revenue. So let's go ahead and dive into today's session. So these are some of the 3 key topics in which you talked about last time. So first of which is building a predictable partner system to increase pipeline. Second was engaging channel partners who are already aligned with other brands. And third was getting channel partners to be proactive instead of reactive. Now, we want this session, like I said, if you have any additional questions on top of that, do let me know. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and focus on these particular topics. All right, let's see. Now, before we do that, I want to get you guys involved, and I want to understand it from the audience's point of view. It's very easy for us to understand what's in it from our point of view. We want, new revenue opportunities. We want new pipeline opportunities. We want velocity. We want volume. But it's very difficult to think of it from the partner's point of view. Now, I'm in a kind of a unique position because I've been on, I've helped multinationals on the tech side, as well as with agencies and other system partners on the other side. So I've seen both sides of the fence. And so for today's session, we really want to dive in and better understand what's in it for your partners. So let me go ahead and try a little whiteboard here, and then we want to get your guys' thoughts. All right, perfect. Can you guys see my whiteboard? Take this, yes. All right, perfect. Now, let me know either in the chat itself or voice it out. What do you think? What's in it for partners? What do you think they're interested in? So I'll go ahead and kick it off. There's usually a couple things. They obviously want, additional revenue for their particular business. That's a pretty obvious one. Anything else that you think your partners want? Let me know in the chat or just voice it out. Let's see. All right. So we have, they want collaboration and mutual growth. Yes, you're absolutely right. They want to be growing alongside the other party as well. Yes, they want to be expanding value to their clients. Anything else that you think? Yes, they want new opportunities. Let's see. They want new opportunities and contacts, absolutely. They want to grow their dollars as a brand, yes, absolutely. So a lot of it's on the monetary side, but one thing we don't really think about is the emotional, the individual side. So we have, yes, expanded exposure, which ultimately leads to new revenue and growth opportunities. Anything else we're missing here, guys? There's one key one that I will share towards the end of today's session, but anything else we're missing today? Anything that you think drives your partners or give them a reason to collaborate with you? Anything else we're missing? All right. So like I said, I will save the other one. Yes, they want access to new customers as well. Ah, yes, marketing brings up a good one. which I want to highlight now because we'll talk about in a little bit, is growth of knowledge as well. So they want to be learning new things. They want to be bettering themselves on a personal level. It's very easiest to think about it from the company level or the organization level, but it's also important to think about it from the individual's point of view. What are they looking to do? Are they looking to grow within their particular career? Are they looking to expand into a different role? What are they trying to do? All of these give us a better understanding in terms of how we can have a stronger partnership. So really, really good points, guys. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this real quick so I can share it with you guys later. All right. And then we'll dive into the rest of today's session. Now, one of the big challenges you guys had was building a predictable partner system to increase pipeline. So the reason I had you guys do that exercise at the very beginning is to understand what's in it for the partner. And I love this example from Sage. So Sage is a tech company. And one of the things they do is they have a very nice kind of clear landing page. I can send the links after the session on what's in it for the partner. So they're selling the advantages of the partnership from the get-go. There's no confusion. It's a very clear landing page. They've outlined some of the things: increasing your profits, differentiate your business, skill up and get certified, driving sales, and then getting help support. So once again, it's important to also do this exercise with your existing partners and potential partners. Identify some of the common things in which they're looking at, and then applying that to what you're doing. They see the value from the get-go. Without that, you have a lot of partners who may sign up with you and then not do anything, which we'll talk about in a little bit later. But I think this is something when we talk about onboarding. We always talk about client onboarding. We don't really talk enough about partner onboarding. And it's extremely important if that is the bulk of your business. So this is one great way to really outline some of those examples on your landing page. Now I'm going to switch things up because Sage is, they're looking at medium-sized agencies, maybe tech partners as well. I'm going to throw a curveball at you, and this is a client I used to work with. So this is Grab. So for Grab, this is actually for their drivers. They have one for their, the clients, but they also have a landing page specifically for drivers. And I had no idea about this until I started working with them. So they have, theirs is once again in the words of, their target audience, which are, the uncles, the older people who are driving the cars. So it says, be your own boss, get reliable earnings, and serving you always. So there's 3 key pillars in which they talk about, and they reiterate it throughout their messaging, whether they're onboarding or they're communicating with new partners. So once again, the reason I love this is because they have a deep understanding. One of the reasons that people, drive for Grab is because they say they want to live the entrepreneurial lifestyle. They want to have their own business. So those were some of the key insights that came through speaking with the partners. And what they did is they pulled some of those sound bites and they added them to their landing pages, to the onboarding communications. So once again, it's very clear in terms of how Grab can help you as a driver. Once again, we'll talk about the different phases of this, but this is the most important phase. I think a lot of tech companies or companies in general don't really outline what's in it for your partner. So there's just some very quick examples that I want to share with you guys. Another thing I wanted to add on to that, which I think is equally important, and stop me if you guys have any questions at all. All right. Is getting, there's a thing called social proof. Now, if you are buying anything off of Amazon or looking at a particular tech product, there's always some kind of social proof. There's some testimonials, some kind of, validation from either your customers. What I love that Sage does is they have a series of quotes from their partners. So once again, it's not enough for you to go through and say, you know what, you're going to help me drive revenue and opportunities, but here are some people who are probably in a similar state, similar organization as me. Here's what they like about working with you. So once again, people need that extra validation, and this is an example of social proof that could be applied. A lot of times we see, client acquisition. The same thing applies when you're talking about partner acquisition. And once again, these are great, sound bites or phrases to put back into your existing partner outreach materials. So for example, they talk about the commitment to the global products, and their market is unmatched. So once again, if I find phrases and keywords that keep coming up like that, well, then I know that that's something important to my partners. I'm going to reiterate that in the onboarding sessions, and I'm also going to remind them of that. We'll talk about that later in terms of reminding them of this, because this is where they fall off the wagon a lot of times. And I was just speaking with a big financial firm yesterday. So in Singapore, all the financial advisors, they allow them their free agents. So they can work with whoever they want to work with. They can work with Prudential, they can work with Manulife, they can work with AXA. It's really up to them. And so it's really a big challenge. And it's the same thing applies in the tech world as well. You may be having partners that are, interacting with your competitors as well. So it's a very common challenge. So that brings us to the second challenge, which is engaging channel partners who are already aligned with other brands. Once again, very common in FinServe, very common in tech, and a couple other areas. So how can we help build a relationship? Well, there's a couple of different ways. So previously when I was working with LinkedIn, I helped advise them on HP, which is one of the big clients. So HP has their regular dealers conference where they bring together all the dealers and they have like a full day of awards, accolades. Actually, the awards thing was something that I recommended that they do. But in addition to that, they have the a full day of just teaching their partners on best practices, new updates, and they did it at a very nice location. I think it was in like Da Nang in Vietnam, some resort. So the reason they did that, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, is to out teach your competition. So once again, we use the same philosophies in client acquisition, but we don't really do enough of it in partner acquisition, partner retention. So this is another example from Sage. So Sage has an entire blog. They have an entire platform that's not showcased here. I don't think Sage is joining the call here. No, not today. But they have a separate platform of all kinds of resources that you could pull. So different assets, different visuals, different landing page, all the things that you would need to know. So it has the educational side, which we were talking about earlier. So how do I upskill myself? How do I become stronger and more updated in terms of what I'm doing in the industry? And on the same side, how can I implement some of those things? So having a center of excellence in terms of assets, copy, landing pages, all the things that you would need to easily develop campaigns. So once again, I'm bringing up Sage because I recently interviewed their marketing director, and I could share the full interview on that. And she gave me some really good insights in terms of what Sage is doing from the partner education point of view. So going back to Grab again, one thing that I mentioned to HP is that they implement the partner awards. It works like magic. So if you're ever in the agency world, agency people go crazy, and the clients do as well for the awards. Everyone wants to be on that stage. They all want to win some prize. It goes back to the individual. Once again, we've talked about the organization. They want revenue. They want all of these additional opportunities. But we don't really think about the individual. What do they want? They want to be, they want to be acknowledged. They want their, awards. They want their any kind of recognition. And so Grab does a good job of this. Once again, they have a series of interviews with some of their Grab drivers, and they tell their story. They feature them on the website. So once again, it makes them feel great. It helps build that rapport, and it appeals to them at a personal level. It appeals to their ego, excuse me, which a lot of times we forget about. So once again, I bring this up because, check out Grab's driver blog. They have a really good, insights in terms of, driving updates, all kinds of things that are relevant for them. And they also feature a lot of their drivers. So once again, if I'm on the fence and I'm thinking about becoming a Grab driver, and I see, a person that I can resonate with, and I read their story or I watch their video, then it's going to, make me more inclined to collaborate with them. I'm going to highlight Marketo because, yes, I've been fortunate to work with Marketo. And so Marketo does a really good job, so the Adobe company, on featuring their partners on social media. One of the things we talked about was recognition. And it could be recognition on your blog, it could be in awards, it could be on your social media platforms. And you would be surprised at how much partners love this kind of recognition, especially if you have, 160,000 followers. Like that's massive. So it goes back to someone was mentioning earlier, recognition. What better recognition to say that Marketo, one of the best, tech companies in the world, featured me or featured my company on their social media platform. So once again, it ticks both boxes. It ticks the company recognition, but also as an individual, as an agency leader, as a partner lead, it's going to make me feel great. So once again, I love that Marketo and Adobe in general do that on a regular basis. So really going on their way to co-create content with their partners. AWS, who was supposed to be on this call, I worked with them previously on auditing some of their their partner content collaterals, because they do a lot. But with that same vein, there was definitely some areas for opportunity, which we worked on with them. And so it's not enough to just put it out. It's important that you're constantly optimizing the same way you would do your customer marketing. It's important to constantly update and optimize your partner marketing, your partner outreach. So once again, if one of the challenges is engaging channel partners who are already aligned with your brands, possible solution is to out-teach your competition, acknowledge them, give them some kind of rewards, make them feel great about themselves and the organization. All right, the last one I think is a big challenge. So once you have them on board, then what do you do with them? And I know a lot of people on this call have this challenge where they built up their partner pipeline, or at least most of it, but now they're trying to figure out how do they get people more involved? How do they get them more proactive? So once again, I want to share a couple quick examples. So this is from HubSpot, and HubSpot has a really good partner program that my previous agency was part of. So what they do is they have different thresholds. So they're very clear from the get-go. This certain amount of MRR, or the revenue you have to refer to them. And then each of those thresholds have a different status and a different rewards and benefits. So obviously the elite ones will get some kind of hands-on training. They may get access to their inbound conference, free tickets to their inbound conference in the US. They get access to the case studies, the blogs, they get a whole bunch of things given to them. And another thing that I didn't realize until I was on the agency side was that the prestige, this is something that we didn't talk about in the earlier that I want to bring up, is the prestige of being an elite partner. It seems like, very funny. Why would anyone care? But you would be surprised how much pride and, sense of belongingness people will go to keep that status. So that in turn in my previous agency helped push them harder once they said, okay, we want to keep this elite status. And it goes back to the other side as well. One, it makes them feel good on a personal level to say, look, we are an elite partner of HubSpot. And also on the business side, it's something they can showcase in their marketing materials. So they put it on their website, they would put it in their pitch decks, they would put it, the blogs, they would put it everywhere that we are a HubSpot or a Google certified partner. And in their minds, it helped them secure more business because of the elevated partnership. So they educated their potential clients in terms of, what is the difference between elite versus diamond versus platinum and so on. So I think that's something we didn't talk about, which is extremely important, that I love that HubSpot, and I think a couple other big tech companies do, is they have different thresholds. And once again, this is something that they remind you from the very beginning, as soon as you sign the partnership contract, and then you will have to report it, I think it's every month or every quarter. So obviously, if you don't hit your KPIs or you don't meet your thresholds, you drop down a tier. And psychologically, you'd be surprised at how that motivates people to get more involved and get their butt in gear. So that's an example from a previous agency, and we were, I think, a HubSpot Diamond partner, I forget, one of the bigger ones. So I love the way, once again, Grab, I think, is does an incredible job at some of the partnership stuff. They have a very extensive list. So once again, they have the different tiers. So Emerald, Ruby, Sapphire, Diamond. And then they list out all the benefits. So I think for the HubSpot one, on the website, they only have the thresholds. But for Grab, they explicitly state what are the specific benefits that you can accrue by becoming a Grab partner at different tiers. And this list is really long. I didn't include the entire thing. I can include the link to that. But obviously, if you're a Diamond partner, then you get a lot more different opportunities, rewards, freebies, whatever it is. So once again, it helps the partner understand what success looks like, and it gives them something to strive to get to. I think there's pride on the line when you go from a Ruby to a Sapphire, for example. It's like going from a white belt to a yellow belt to a brown belt to a black belt. There is a stage that people get to, and it's something that they find very valuable, and they find, they really appreciate. So once again, it drives them. Now, another thing we didn't talk about as well is competitions. So I know some organizations that have competitions for their partners. So the one with the highest referrals or whatever it is, the KPI you set for them, they will get some special reward. So those are two ways in which to do it. One of which is looking at the the reward system, very clearly stating that and reminding partners on a regular basis what that actually looks like. And the second part is around competition. So how can you create a fun competition where it sparks some kind of drive in them to actually get stuff done? And then once again, the third thing, which is not mentioned here, is constantly reminding them. So going back to what's important to them, how are you helping them do that? Because a lot of times people get very busy, partners get very busy, they're dealing with multiple companies. They need that constant reminder. And depending on the level of partner, if it's a top tier, you may have your partner manager liaising with them on a regular basis. If not, you may have, for lower tier partners, you may have a newsletter or some kind of frequent communications that they get as just a reminder. So those are just some of the ways in which you can reinforce and strengthen your partnership relationships. To quickly recap it, I think once again, it's very easy for us to think about what's in it for us, but in order to really strengthen the relationship, get them involved, get them driving pipeline, you have to really help understand what's in it for them and remind them on a regular basis. So if I could get you guys to get back involved again, hopefully there's at least one thing that you've learned that you would apply. Let me know in the comments. Sorry, the comments, switching on YouTube. Let me know in the chat, what is one thing you plan on doing after this session? I would love to hear that. If not, you can message me privately as well. But I'd love to hear, like you said, get you guys' feedback. All right, while you're doing that, as I mentioned, we run these sessions every Thursday at 12 p.m. So feel free to join. We'll send you an invite. And if you're interested in our Partner Accelerated program to really increase the revenue and velocity of your partner's pipeline, there's a little QR code. We can lock in a time. Otherwise, I'm going to stop and I'm going to answer some of your guys' questions. So let me stop sharing my screen and answer any questions you guys might have. All right. Let me know in the, thank you, Antoine, for sharing this. Yes, they actually could be sharing this with your team. That would be a great, that's great for me, but also, like I said, hopefully it helps the team as well. Wonderful. Like I said, we have about 10 minutes left. Anything that, what you heard about that you want more clarity on? Because I was involved in some of these projects, and some of them I interviewed the marketing directors directly. All right. All right. All right. So, like I said, let me go back to the first one. maybe we could dive a bit deeper. So let me know, just put 1, 2, or 3 in the chat, and we can dive a bit deeper into one of these topics. Or if you guys want to share your own stories, like I said, it could be an opportunity for you to showcase your own stories with the community as well. So anything you guys are doing, I won't pick on anybody. I know some of you personally, but I won't pick on anybody. I feel like I should, but I won't. So one thing that we've done, which I didn't talk about here, that we do for my business, is we have monthly catch-ups. So this is, before COVID, it was something we did, over lunch, something very informal. But now it's all online. So every month we'll catch up with partners, and we'll share kind of, it's not really a way to sell anything. It's more in terms of sharing insights. So for example, if we know that they're all in agencies, they're all in tech companies, we will bring them together and we'll have kind of a closed door discussion on what are some of the things that are working or what are the things they want to try out. I think this is a great opportunity to use this as a soundboard as well. So anything you're looking to do, you can get feedback from other people. We have some really good companies. I won't mention who's on this call, but we have some really good companies here. So if there's anything you want to experiment with, whether it's Center of Excellence, wink, wink, or anything like that, let me know. Or even getting buy-in. Who here says getting buy-in from your management team? Once again, I won't pick on you. I know. Or is everyone, their management team is pretty sold in on partnerships? Antoine's nodding his head. All right, Martin is as well. All right, wonderful, guys. Well, if there are no further questions, then we will wrap this up. Yes, Georgina says, Georgina says, we make sure that when we're asking partners for their time, we go to them with something of value. I love this. Once again, if you're taking up their time, I'm gonna dive a bit deeper on that, Georgina, because I think it's a very good point. What is something that constitutes something of value, something you've gone with to them? And while you're doing that, maybe I'll share an example. So I interviewed Meltwater, which is the big social media kind of analytics, social listening firm. And they do this on the client side, but I think it's equally as applicable to the partner side. So because they have access to a lot of data information, they will use that as a conversation starter and say, did you know that 33% of Facebook users are talking about this topic? And it's something very relevant to that particular client's industry or their market. So they use that data point as an entry to have a conversation. And then once they have the conversation, then they can dive a bit deeper and talk about other opportunities. But that's going back to Georgina's point. That could be a way to start the conversation, is going something of value in terms of some kind of data point or some kind of insight that only you have. So for example, I know a lot of you guys are running your own research reports. Is there something that you could share with your partners first? Just a data point that you think is relevant to them. Maybe we'll give them an upper hand. They will find that super valuable. Yes, Georgina says, example, sharing business insights on the market opportunity in order to get them committed to target XYZ. Absolutely. I think giving them the insights, giving them the insights in terms of how they can do better. We talked about it earlier, how can you out-teach them? But if you give them specific guidelines or insights in terms of how to penetrate the Chinese market, the Korean market, for example, any insights that you have, because a lot of times the people on this call will have much bigger exposure. They'll have a lot more access to a larger network. So you guys will have more data points to leverage. So by saying, look, we're gonna help you enter the Southeast Asian market or the Korean market because we have a team there, we've been working there. They're gonna say, yes, we would love to do so. So yes, Georgina, I love that. It's absolutely a great way to build that rapport, add something of value, and then once you have the conversation itself, you can unlock so many different other opportunities, and then ideally get their commitment. I think this is something that's extremely important. And I'm gonna pull in different analogies that aren't relevant to partnerships, but I think the commitment thing is a big one. So in sales, there's a whole concept of after you have, at the end of each session, you always have a follow-up. You always schedule a follow-up. This is extremely important. And this is something I learned the hard way earlier in my career, is if you don't schedule a follow-up, then you lose out on that opportunity. So going back to Georgina's point, um, schedule that next follow-up in their calendar during that meeting itself. Say, okay, in 1 month or in 2 weeks, we're going to catch up at Thursday at 3 p.m. and we're going to go over, your updates, or we're going to go over whatever it is that they committed to. Then when it's locked in their calendar and they can see that, that deadline coming up, then once again, it sparks that, oh, we have to get something done. It goes back to that same thought when we were students and we had, a project due, or we had an assignment due. We may put it off, but the night before or a couple days before, it's going to push us to get it done. So I think going back to Georgina's point, at the end of each partnership meeting you have, you should ideally schedule some kind of follow-up, whether it's in person or it's a call. And during that, you should lock in what it is that you're actually committing to. And it could be, a certain revenue amount. It could be a number of introductions or referrals, whatever it may be. Set that at the end of each partnership call. Otherwise, you run the risk of them saying, yeah, we'll work on it, and then nothing gets done, which I'm sure some of you guys can relate to. So once again, pulling that from the sales analogies, but I think it's very much relevant for partnerships as well. Thank you for chiming in, Georgina. All right. Shell says, understanding that partners are running their own businesses and they have their own unique strengths and weaknesses. Creating a program that is flexible enough to encourage their strengths and support their weaknesses. We have a commitment to build their businesses alongside them. The uniqueness should be celebrated. Absolutely. I think this is something extremely important. And we were speaking to, I think, one of the chambers of commerce about this as well, is there's different levels of sophistication. So I'm going back to Shell's point. This is something extremely important when you're talking about your education program. There's no one size fits all. You're going to have some who are very, for example, digitally sophisticated versus those who are just getting started. So you need to almost have different layers, like different tiers, like beginner, intermediate, and advanced level of education, because going back to Shell's point, she's absolutely right. You can't have a one size fits all and have something very generic intro level, because the advanced people will be like, well, I already know that. You're not adding value to my business. I'm going to stop reading your emails, or I'm going to stop attending your conferences because they're a waste of my time. So breaking the education into different tiers is a great way to appeal, like you said, to the different strengths, different weaknesses, and also the level of understanding. So once again, we're dealing with one of the chambers of commerce, and they do the same thing with all their companies. So they had them take a quiz, or this is something, that we proposed for them, is we had them take a digital maturity quiz. And then based on the results, we could understand what level of maturity they were. So obviously those who are, on the lower end in terms of their scores, we provide very basic level, webinars, ebooks, whatever it was, guidelines. For those who are far more sophisticated, we would go ahead and ditch the whole, entry level communications, and we go straight to monthly catch-ups, very much like this, where they can share their key learnings. They can learn from others. I think that was a key part, is the opportunity to learn from others, their peers, as well as what the chamber was doing. So yes, Shell, another great point to understand is that people have different tiers or different levels of understanding. So make sure that that is celebrated. Beautifully said, guys. Anything else we're missing? Anything else that you guys do? Because these are really good points. Good. All right. Well, if that's everything, like I said, I think we're about right on time anyway. So like I said, hopefully you enjoyed today's session. I'll send you the recording after this. So like Antoine, if you find it helpful, please feel free to share with your team members. Otherwise, we can catch up one-on-one. We can answer any more questions about some of the other examples we talked about. So thank you so much again for joining. Hopefully we'll see you next Thursday. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. Stay safe and take care, everyone. See you guys. Thanks, guys. Bye.